Hello, everybody. My name is Frank Norris, and welcome to Frank and Stan Chat. So I think this is number 14 of a series that we only intended to have one in the series, but we're delighted that we've got to number 14. And to my left is my very good friend.
Good morning.
Yes, this is Stan Johnson. Yeah, so Stan and I have known each other since 1995, and we have chewed the fat a few times over things to do with education, and with the lockdown we didn't have that opportunity, so we decided to do it by Zoom and record it and see if anybody wanted to watch it. And now I think we've noticed that the videos which are available on YouTube are gradually increasing in numbers. So I think what's happening is people are connecting with us and then they're going back to look at the earlier version. So we're delighted with that. So they're all there. So today, well, some of the ground rules, we don't slag anybody off. We know that this is a very, very challenging time for government, for school leaders, for those involved in education. So we're respectful of that. It doesn't mean to say we're not critical, but we are sympathetic, and Stan has this word kindness. We try and show kindness. So so those are the ground rules, and we normally start with what's caught your eye, and I forgot to do this last week, Stan. So
well, I'll tell you what's caught my eye this week, and it's caught my eye just now, and it's some artwork I've been doing.
Is that yours?
Yeah, manipulating a photograph on like a Photoshop style. But though that was taken in there was a series of them I took in Spain, in Frigliana in Spain, and it's just how the groups of men, probably our age, I used to say old men, but I'll say men of similar age to me, spend maybe hours sitting in the sun having conversations. And I wondered two things. One, how has the pandemic affected that part of their culture? Are they still able to do that? And secondly, how that creates a culture different from ours, because it's not something you see in our country. And so that's been my musings this week.
Yeah, it's interesting that because I've had a long interest in cricket, and often I'll go down to the cricket club. I don't go often enough now at Bramall Cricket Club, but I must do because they've just started playing again. But actually, what's really nice, and it's something that I don't experience a lot in my life, is what you're saying is that there's a cricket pavilion with about sort of 15 chairs in front of the picket fence, and you just get your seats, and then a lot of them have got the newspaper, so there's a bit of chat about what's in the newspaper, but then it just sort of ventures into cricket and then off onto other stuff. So it's not as powerful, I think, as what you're sort of reflecting, but that I get close to it, I think, at Bramall when I go.
Yeah, I just, whenever I see it and you probably in Greece, it tends to be in bars, doesn't it? Particularly men in bars, chewing the fat all day, I think. But it's just, I'm envious of that idea that you can sit in the sun for a while and turn ideas. I just wonder if their mental health is better than ours as a result of them having the kind of chats I imagine they have. Yeah. It might not be. They might be just the same as us, and nobody talks about mental health. I'm not sure.
Well, what's caught my eye, I keep going on about this, but I have Spotify, and I suppose it's what's caught my ear, because when you go onto Spotify, it says about new releases, and I have to say, I have no idea why I clicked onto Taylor Swift. I mean, I'm not I have heard, obviously, Taylor Swift. I'm not a fan or anything like that. But I am a massive fan of the new album called Folklore. And nobody was aware that this album was going to be released. So it caused quite a lot of, it stirred the scene a bit. And I have to say, it takes me back to sort of a singer-songwriter 1970s, 71, 72, because Taylor Swift has opened her heart to that album, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's got a mellowness. It's acoustic guitar. It's piano. It's got a beautiful arrangement. It's just unbelievable. So I've listened to that.
It beat my favourite album that's like that of Joni Mitchell and Blue.
Yes. Now my daughter Philippa said exactly the same, and actually talking about mental health. I mean, Joni Mitchell, who opened her heart on that album. I can't remember, was it David Crosby or somebody said to her at the time, you know, you've left nothing. You've left nothing for yourself. You know, you've offered your heart to the album, and actually, you know, you need to preserve some of your privacy for yourself. But she didn't, and I hope that affected Joni Mitchell further down the line. You know, but I hope that Taylor Swift isn't penalised personally for actually opening up, because I think it's really resonated with me. It's a beautiful piece of work, and the lyrics are poetic. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Anyway, so that's caught my ear this week. So what we decided to do, because we haven't got a guest this week, is we would just spend sort of probably 10 minutes just reflecting on the guests that we've had, and the things that are stuck in our mind following their visits, their joining us. So, do you want to start, or shall I start, Stan?
You can start. You'll have to remember the guests in kind of order.
I know. Well, for me, I mean, one that stuck in my mind was one that actually hasn't been viewed that often. I think it's only about 60 or 70 times. Is the visit from Hazel Ramika from the Co-op, where she was speaking about the focus on community and the need to have a set of values which are well known. And in a way that's part of the attraction for getting involved in a cooperative setup. I watched Newsnight this week because they did a piece on how COVID is actually expectations of consumers have changed, because they're now looking at businesses that have stepped up to support communities and viewing them more favourably than those who are basically driven by the needs of the shareholder. So I think what Hazel was doing was highlighting, this sort of broader view as to the sort of the community. The reasons why businesses exist is not solely to make profit. It's an important element to make a surplus, but actually what do you do with the profit is a really important factor, when in fact most of your profit is coming from particular communities. So does it get siphoned off to be used by individuals, or is it actually put back into the community who've actually provided the profit? So I think that was a really really relevant discussion.
Andy Hargreaves in Sustainable Leadership talks about that as an element. I think that's where he talks about length, and it's about a commitment to a moral ground. He talks about the successful companies that have real moral values that drive them, and how they tend to be more successful or longer lasting than the quick profit making ones.
Yeah, it's interesting because Steve Morell's on Newsnight I'm aware of this, but if you set your business up in terms of a cooperative, you have a much greater chance of surviving the first 5 years of business than if you're set up as a sort of limited company. So, I think that there is there is something in this. So I hope that COVID does see a shift, a change in business practice, and I hope that's seen also in schools. We've said many times about the need to have schools engaging and being central part of their local community.
Yeah, I do think that's important, and we need to step away if we can, because we've had it for so long now that schools compete. Local schools compete against each other to a collaborative model.
Yeah.
And that will take a long time, because whenever I've worked with schools who are aiming to collaborate, most of them still have to have success in their school as part of the outcome, which I fully understand, because that's the aim of school success. But we need to get away from that, I think, and start talking about a group of schools as a model.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. I was impressed by Isha. Do you remember the student, the
Yeah.
woman who was the campaigner, and her sort of energy and her sort of drive. And do you remember it was at the? I mean, it's still a factors in the Black Lives Matter. Do you remember she raised the point about it made her reflect on how diverse had been the teachers that her, and she works in a school, or she was taught in a school with quite a diverse community of staff, but it was just a challenging conversation.
Yeah, and when I reflected on it, I think we spoke afterwards. I remember visiting the school, and I remember meeting her, because it throws you when you say, you know, in the area where the school is, and you say, what do you hope to do? And they say, become a barrister. Whoa,
in a way, we shouldn't be shocked, should we? I mean, in a way, that's right.
It was great. It was great.
We're shocked. Yeah.
It absolutely stuck with me that there was that aspiration, and I thought that was. I remember coming out of the school thinking that was fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Again, the culture within the school is one of high expectations, you know, and there's, I mean, there sadly, because of society and structures and the way we are, there are sort of hurdles for students to overcome, and we do need sort of ambition. Students need help to realise those ambitions, but also help in order to sort of make them as realistic as possible, but at least, you know, steering people. I don't want to sort of be thinking as though we're suppressing it. I'm not. But.
No, I think we've gone through a period where you only have to believe and things will happen. And we need to start making, well, it's believe, aspire, and work towards it.
Yes.
It doesn't just come if you believe.
Yeah.
No.
We also had Graham Newell. Do you remember talking about technology and how technology had changed, you know, changing teaching and learning during lockdown, and how we capitalised on.
And is Graham going to come back and do?
He is, yeah. He's going to bring back with Tom Trower, a teacher from one of the co-op academies, primary academies in Leeds, who is a strong advocate for the use of technology to assist in learning, but also to assist in teaching, reflection, and stuff like that. You know, I do think the most powerful bit, I don't know about you, is, and the bit that really hurts, is when you see yourself on one of these videos and you think, oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? You know, in the privacy of your own home, you know, and sort of decide, well, actually, I've got to try and find a way in which I don't do that, or, you know, I need to reflect on what I'm doing. So I think we ourselves have got
I can remember the first time I was doing CPD for a school, and for some reason there was a number of staff who couldn't make the session. There was about 30 or 40 in the session, and they said, well, can we video it and for them to see the video? And I, without thinking, I said, yeah, of course you can, no problem. And then they sent me the video, and I just hated it. I absolutely hated it.
It's on record as well, Stan, what you've said.
Yeah, that's the other frightening thing.
The other, I'm leading on this because I can probably remember them, because I generally, if you're not aware,
most of them.
We for guests, we generally sort of have a chat about who might bring something a bit different. And over the last few weeks, a few of those have been people that I've known more than Stan has. But the Mike Cladding Bowl, the Ofsted years, that's actually going to be the most viewed video of all of ours. And I don't.
That's because I spoke least on that, Frank.
I actually think towards the end, Stan, you were getting ahead of steam. Yeah. But I think that we were keen not to criticise Ofsted. We were looking back, I think, on happy time.
Yeah, on our time there.
And I think we have reflected on the fact that it's probably, as we did the next week when you and I just chatted about Ofsted, we were sad that actually Ofsted hadn't really changed. That things had changed considerably, but we were still treating schools in a very similar way and visiting them as regularly as they did when we were inspecting. Bearing in mind there's so many much more allegedly good schools. So I think that we managed to avoid him getting the sack, from his Ofsted work, which I think was a big achievement, because neither you nor I do Ofsted work now.
No.
Yeah. So any for you? Those are all the
Mike Rotherham, who was he our first guest? Mike.
He was.
At the time when we were thinking seriously about mental health and how schools were going to return and the kind of things that schools would have to have in place, thinking about staff well-being particularly and pupil well-being. Now, I think since that, I've heard what I consider to be a lot of nonsense about how children's lives are going to be devastated by this time off. I mean, there will be some children, don't get me wrong, there will be some who will be badly affected by it. I understand that. But I think the vast majority of children, certainly at primary level, are very resilient. As soon as they get back to an order they recognised and a way of working, it'll just be back. And the feedback from schools so far is, they just come back. It's
that's what I've heard as well. I mean, I agree. I mean, there was a report out this week that said, wasn't it, it's going to take 62 years or something for children to make up the difference. I mean, I don't know where that figure came from. Interestingly, though, that the government, the DfE have announced seeking interest from particular groups to get involved in an evaluation exercise, which basically I think is going to test the kids. To get a feel for, what have they, well, it's not what they've lost. I think it's probably more about the theory or the assumption is that they haven't made the sort of same progress as they had if they've been at school. But I think so many people I meet, and I think the point you make about, there are some, this is going to be, we don't know the numbers, but obviously it's probably going to be the most disadvantaged who are going to be the most disadvantaged by this. And that's a real concern. But there will be children that have benefited greatly from this. And
also, Frank, I mean, if there are some fortunate things, the period for the schools to be actually shut tends to be the period normally in the school year after all the tests are finished, when it's the kind of, you can't book a bus in that last 2 months to go on a school visit. So, and I'm sad that they've missed that kind of, because I think that's really important, but it's not something that's not recoverable the next time you go on a school visit or a residential. I just think it's overplayed, and I think what happened was they mixed getting children back to school for children's sake with getting children back to school so we can get the economy running. And it was easy to say this is all for the sake of children than it was for saying, actually, this is about getting people back to work. And I think it was
I'm starting to get a bit concerned about, the decision around the Balearic Islands and Canary Islands, this actually, and you think, well, what's that got to do with education? Well, probably quite a bit, on the basis that a decision's been made about Spain, and obviously once you've made the decision. You can't now immediately reverse that decision, because this government's done quite a few U-turns in the year certainly this year. But the issue here is that if that there's talk about second waves and that's the defence about the reason why that has
coming through Europe. The second wave is sweeping through Europe, according to the news this morning. But
so the thing is that
was somebody in a ministry office somewhere saying, and somebody saying to them, and what about the Canary Islands? Well, what about them? Well, they're Spanish. Are they? Well, they must be included. You can. I can just see that.
I know.
You know.
Apparently, the grant chap said that there was, they did consider this, but actually, all these decisions made at the weekend is not a good time to be making those sorts of decisions. But the issue I was going to make was around that there is an assumption when schools a couple of weeks ago, as if, well, we're opening up now, we've got these travel corridors, children will be back. It was basically assumed. But then there is a real risk now that with the narrative around trying to defend the Balearics, Canaries, it's spooking everybody again.
Yeah.
And actually that therefore then will spook parents into thinking that actually the risk is higher than perhaps it is. Now, I saw some research today which said that was it 48% of parents still have significant concerns about their children going back to school in September. And this is going to make those concerns feel worse.
Yeah.
So,
and with a month to go, and if numbers, which apparently according to what I saw this morning, numbers are rising, they've not stayed stable.
No.
Then you can see that, and also things like Leicester, where they close the schools. If that happens, it makes you think wherever you are, well, if schools were closed, is that because schools were part of the problem?
Yeah. Well, I think the problem, the narrative as well, isn't it, about young people being the reasons why this is coming back again. They never talk about it being the 18 to 25-year-olds, it's young people, well, many schools have 18-year-olds in their buildings, so there are some, I can see this narrative, it's just around the communication of all of this. Some of this stuff is hard, but there isn't quite the clarity of thinking and of messaging.
Well, you should apply for the job, Frank.
Yeah.
To be Boris Johnson's.
Well, yeah, he's looking for one, isn't he? Yeah. It can't be that hard, Stan. Yeah. I think I've got a Thursday morning free at the moment. So I think
there was one other. Don't forget, Paul was on. Paul Duckworth on leadership. We talked about leadership with Paul.
Yeah, the risk here is we'll miss somebody off, and they'll be affected.
I know. I'm just desperately trying to think who we've missed.
I think we're probably there. Paul was very gracious, wasn't he, as well, and actually has been really good at watching future videos and encouraging people to watch them. I remember, I think Paul brought a sense of current and a sense of elements related to the operational demands of leadership at the moment. Which I think what Mike Claddenbowl did as well. That we don't have, sadly.
I think Paul's comment that he was glad he was on before some of the others. that actually reflects back to when Paul and I worked together, because Paul is a superb presenter of CPD. And when I was in charge, I always made sure that if there was a timetable, I was on before Paul, never after him.
Okay, well, if we have missed one of our guests off, we apologise, and we'll make up for that next week.
We'll talk about you afterwards.
Yeah, next week is, again, we don't have a guest next week. It's Frankenstein again. I think what we'll do is we'll pick up on education news that's occurred over the last 7 days. But going forward, we've got some guests coming forward, and we do have a focus on leadership. I think that's really where this all started. So we'll give you more details of the guests next week, which will take place during August and September. But we intend to carry on with these while people want to watch them. And we're very pleased that you do. So thank you. Thanks, Stan, for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all, hopefully all being well, next week. Bye-bye.
Yeah.